As a lover of all things supernatural, I had always been fascinated by ghost stories and urban legends. Growing up, I heard tales of spirits and hauntings from around the world, but nothing intrigued me more than the eerie legend of Hanako-san, Japan's version of Bloody Mary. Little did I know that my curiosity would lead me into an encounter that would haunt me forever. It was during my college years that I decided to spend a semester studying in Japan. The culture, the language, the history, all of it drew me in. I was particularly captivated by the folklore and the tales of eerie, or ghosts, that seemed to permeate every corner of this ancient land. Among these tales was that of Hanako-san, a spirit said to haunt school bathrooms, waiting to be summoned by the unsuspecting and the brave. One evening, after a long day of classes and exploring the city, my friends and I gathered in our dormitory common room, sharing ghost stories. The topic of Hanako-san inevitably came up. My friends, eager to test their courage, suggested we try summoning her. Despite the uneasy feeling that settled in my stomach, I agreed to join them. After all, it was just a story, right? We made our way to the old, abandoned school building on campus. The building had been closed for years, its corridors dark and silent, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards under our feet. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, and an eerie stillness hung in the air. We found the bathroom on the third floor, the place where Hanako-san was said to appear. The walls were lined with cracked, grimy tiles, and the dim light from our flashlights cast long, unsettling shadows. The legend stated that to summon Hanako-san, one must knock on the third stall door 3 times and call her name. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached the stall. I hesitated, my hand trembling as it reached for the door. Gathering my courage, I knocked 3 times, each rap echoing ominously through the empty bathroom. Hanako-san, 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 are you there? For a moment, nothing happened. The silence was deafening, my friend's nervous laughter fading into anxious whispers. Just as I was about to turn away, a soft, almost imperceptible voice answered.
Yes, I'm here.
The door creaked open slowly, revealing the dark interior of the stall. My flashlight flickered, casting erratic beams of light that barely penetrated the gloom. As I stepped closer, I felt a cold breeze brush against my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. And then I saw her, a small, pale girl in a red skirt and white blouse, her hair hanging in dark, tangled strands around her face. Her eyes, wide and hollow, seemed to stare right through me. My breath caught in my throat as I realized that this was no prank. Hanako-san was real. Fear rooted me to the spot, my legs refusing to move. Hanako-san's lips parted in a chilling smile, her voice a haunting whisper.
Do you want to play?
My friends, sensing something was terribly wrong, began to back away, their earlier bravado replaced by sheer terror. I tried to move, to run, but my body felt frozen, trapped by the gaze of this spectral figure. Hanako-san stepped closer, her presence cold and oppressive, her eyes never leaving mine.
Do you want to play?
She repeated, her voice now echoing eerily around the bathroom. Desperate to escape, I finally managed to break free of my paralysis and bolted for the door. My friends followed, our footsteps echoing wildly as we raced down the dark corridors and out into the night. We didn't stop running until we were safely back in our dorm, panting and drenched in cold sweat. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and I often heard faint whispers when I was alone. My nights were plagued by nightmares of Hanako-san, her hollow eyes and chilling smile haunting my every dream. One night, as I lay in bed, the whispers grew louder. I felt a cold presence in the room, and the temperature seemed to drop. Turning slowly, I saw her Hanako-san standing at the foot of my bed. Her expression was one of sadness and longing, as if she were trapped between worlds, seeking solace.
Do you want to play?
She asked once more, her voice filled with an eerie blend of innocence and malevolence. Terrified, I realized that my curiosity had unleashed something beyond my understanding. I had disturbed a restless spirit, and now she was bound to me. Desperate for answers, I turned to local folklore and spiritual guides, seeking a way to appease Hanako-san and send her back to where she belonged. I learned that to appease her spirit, I needed to perform a purification ritual and offer a sincere apology. With the help of a local priest, I gathered the necessary items, incense, salt, and a small offering of rice, and returned to the abandoned school bathroom. With trembling hands, I performed the ritual, chanting the ancient words of purification and scattering salt around the bathroom. I placed the offering in the third stall and knelt down, bowing my head in a gesture of respect and apology. Hanako-san, I'm sorry for disturbing you. Please find peace and rest. For a moment, nothing happened. The bathroom was silent, save for the soft crackle of the incense. Then, a gentle breeze swept through the room, carrying with it a sense of calm. When I looked up, Hanako-san was gone, her presence replaced by an overwhelming feeling of tranquility. The haunting whispers and shadows disappeared, and I no longer felt the oppressive weight of her gaze. The nightmare ceased, and I knew that Hanako-san had finally found peace. The experience, however, left an indelible mark on me. To this day, I carry the memory of that encounter, a constant reminder of the thin veil between our world and the next. If you ever find yourself tempted to summon spirits or delve into the unknown, remember my story. Curiosity can be a dangerous thing, for the spirits of the past are always watching, and some legends are best left undisturbed. It was a late October evening, the kind where the chill in the air nips at your skin and the days grow shorter, casting longer shadows over the city. I had just moved to Japan for work, and everything was still so new and unfamiliar. The language, the culture, even the urban legends were unlike anything I'd ever encountered before. But there was one story that gripped me with a fear I'd never known. Akemanto, the Red Cloak. My apartment was a modest one-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, close to the local school where I worked as an English teacher. Every day, I would pass by the school's public restroom, an old, run-down building that seemed to stand in stark contrast to the pristine campus surrounding it. The students always avoided it, and I soon learned why. One evening, while grading papers late into the night, I decided to use that very restroom. The school's main building was already locked up, and it seemed like the quickest option. As I approached, a cold wind rustled the leaves around me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The restroom was as eerie inside as it was outside, dimly lit, with flickering fluorescent lights casting unsettling shadows on the walls. The stalls were old and worn, the paint peeling away to reveal the bare wood beneath. I chose a stall and tried to hurry, wanting to get out as quickly as possible. That's when I heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper.
Do you want red paper or blue paper?
I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The voice was so close, yet I was alone. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, a trick of the mind brought on by the unsettling atmosphere. But then I heard it again, clearer this time.
Do you want red paper or blue paper?
The stories I'd heard from my students flooded back to me. Ake Manto, the vengeful spirit of a man who once haunted the school, offering his victims a choice. Red paper meant a violent, bloody death, while blue paper meant suffocation. There was no right answer, only horror. I felt a chill run down my spine, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. I had to respond, but I couldn't bring myself to say either option. Instead, I whispered, "I don't want any paper." The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, I thought I might have escaped the spirit's wrath, but then the stall door creaked open slowly, and I saw him, a figure draped in a flowing red cloak, his face obscured by a porcelain mask. His eyes, dark and empty, seemed to bore into my very soul. I bolted, bursting out of the stall and running out of the restroom as fast as my legs could carry me. The cold night air hit me like a wall, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I ran until I reached the safety of my apartment, slamming the door behind me and collapsing on the floor, trembling with fear. The next day, I couldn't bring myself to go back to work. I called in sick, my mind reeling from the previous night's encounter. I researched Ake Manto, desperate for answers, for some way to protect myself. The more I read, the more I realized how real the danger was. The legend wasn't just a story, it was a warning. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself avoiding that part of the school entirely. But the fear never truly left me. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of a light sent me into a panic. I couldn't escape the feeling that Akemanto was still watching, waiting for another chance to offer his deadly choice. I began to notice subtle changes around my apartment, small things, at first, like items out of place or doors left ajar. Then, more unsettling signs appeared. Red markings on my bathroom mirror, a blue piece of paper slipped under my door. It was as if Akemanto was reminding me that he hadn't forgotten. One night, I woke to the sound of whispering. The same chilling question echoed through the darkness.
Do you want red paper or blue paper?
This time, I was prepared. I had read that the only way to escape Akemanto was to trick him, to offer him a different answer. With a trembling voice, I whispered back, "I choose yellow paper." There was a moment of silence, and then the whispering stopped. I held my breath, waiting for something to happen, but the room remained still. Slowly, the fear began to ebb away, replaced by a tentative relief. The next morning, I found a yellow piece of paper on my kitchen table. No marks, no signs of violence, just a plain yellow sheet. I realized that I had survived, that I had outwitted Akemanto, but the experience had left a permanent mark on me. Even now, as I tell this story, I can't help but glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see that red cloak lurking in the shadows. The legend of Akamanto is more than just a ghost story. It's a reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. So if you ever find yourself alone in an old restroom and you hear that chilling question, remember my tale. Choose wisely, or better yet, don't choose at all. Some legends are best left undisturbed, for the spirits of the past have long memories and relentless resolve. It was a rainy evening, much like this one. The incessant patter of raindrops against the window created a rhythmic, almost hypnotic background. I was in my college dorm, feeling restless and craving something thrilling to pass the time. That's when I found myself scrolling through obscure horror forums, diving deep into the internet's darkest corners. It was there I stumbled upon a thread titled Tomino's Hell, the cursed poem you should never read aloud. The warnings were explicit, almost desperate, but they only served to pique my curiosity further. The poem, I learned, was written by Seiji Aso in the early 20th century. Tomino's Hell recounts the tragic story of a young boy named Tomino who descends into hell. According to legend, anyone who reads the poem aloud will be cursed with misfortune, or worse, death. Skeptical, yet intrigued, I decided to test the legend myself. What could possibly go wrong? I dimmed the lights in my room, the glow of my laptop screen casting eerie shadows on the walls. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, I began to read. The first line felt heavy on my tongue. Older sister vomits blood, younger sister's breathing fire. As the words left my lips, a sudden chill enveloped the room, causing goosebumps to rise on my skin. Dismissing it as a figment of my imagination, I continued. While sweet little Tomino just spits up the jewels. The temperature seemed to plummet, and I could see my breath forming misty clouds in the cold air. The shadows on the walls seemed to grow, twisting and writhing as if alive. But I pressed on, driven by an inexplicable compulsion. By the time I reached the final lines, prey to the shadows, the glow of hell does not fade. My hands were trembling uncontrollably. An unnatural silence filled the room, so profound that it felt as if the world itself had stopped breathing. That night, I experienced the most vivid, horrifying nightmares. In my dreams, I was pursued through dark, labyrinthine corridors by unseen entities, their whispers echoing the verses of the poem. When I woke up, my throat was raw and sore, and my head pounded with a relentless ache. I tried to dismiss it as a coincidence, but the events that followed made it impossible. Objects in my room began to move on their own. Books fell off shelves. My chair would swivel slightly when no one was near it, and the whispers, oh, the whispers. They filled the air when I was alone, an unintelligible murmur that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. One night, as I was studying late, my computer screen flickered violently before shutting off completely. In the darkened screen, I saw a reflection that wasn't my own, a shadowy figure standing just behind me. Heart pounding, I spun around, only to find emptiness. That was the moment I realized the gravity of my mistake. I had to find a way to lift the curse, or at the very least, survive it. Desperate, I turned to various sources for help. I scoured online forums for solutions, sought advice from spiritual advisors, and even visited a local shrine to pray for protection. Each step felt like a battle against an invisible, malevolent force. Slowly, the occurrences began to wane, but the fear never entirely left me. Even now, I can still feel the weight of those cursed words lurking in the recesses of my mind. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, some things are best left untouched. Power of belief can be a curse in itself. So, if you ever come across the poem Tomino's Hell, heed my warning, do not read it aloud. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. The lure of the unknown has always captivated me, especially when it comes wrapped in the shroud of local legends and whispered tales. So, when I first heard about the Inunaki Tunnel, a place rumored to be haunted by restless spirits and shadowy apparitions, I knew I had to experience it firsthand. It is said in 1988, a factory worker was murdered and set on fire by some youth in the tunnel. The gratuitous act of violence was committed, according to the five-man, just to steal his car. Burned alive with gasoline, locals say to this day they can hear his howl of agony when passing by the tunnel at night. Against the advice of locals and the concerned warnings of friends, I set out one cool evening. The drive took me through winding, narrow roads, flanked by towering trees, whose branches seemed to reach out in eerie anticipation. Eventually, the road led me to the entrance of the tunnel, now barricaded to vehicles, signaling the beginning of my journey into the unknown. Entering the tunnel, a chill immediately settled in the air, and the soft glow of my flashlight struggled against the engulfing darkness. The tunnel walls, stained with age and neglect, bore the remnants of graffiti and symbols that hinted at the tunnel's dark reputation. Every step echoed eerily, as if the very walls were whispering secrets of tragedies long past. As I ventured deeper, the atmosphere thickened with an inexplicable heaviness. Faint whispers teased at the edge of my hearing, and the occasional drip of water echoed like footsteps in the distance. And then, amidst the silence, came the first howl, a distant, mournful sound that sent a shiver down my spine. With each step forward, the howls grew louder and more insistent, seemingly emanating from all directions at once. It was as though the tunnel itself had come alive, echoing the cries of unseen inhabitants lost to time. Occasionally, I felt a presence behind me, a sensation of being watched that made my heart race and my grip on the flashlight tighten. Then, just as I was beginning to doubt my own sanity, I heard it, a voice, faint yet distinct, calling my name. At first, I dismissed it as a trick of the mind, a product of the oppressive darkness and the tension that hung heavy in the air. But the voice persisted, growing louder and more urgent with each echo through the tunnel's depths. Panic seized me, and I ran. The beam of my flashlight bounced wildly as I sprinted towards a faint glimmer of light at the tunnel's end. Adrenaline fueled my escape, my breath coming in ragged gasps as the howls and whispers blended into a cacophony of terror behind me. Finally bursting into the cool night air, I collapsed on the ground, heart pounding in my chest. The silence outside was deafening compared to the tumultuous symphony that had haunted the tunnel. I lay there, trying to catch my breath, trying to make sense of what I'd just experienced. The Inunaki Tunnel had taught me a lesson, a stark reminder that some places are best left undisturbed, their mysteries preserved in the shadows. Whether I had encountered spirits, echoes of the past, or merely my own fears manifesting in the darkness, I may never know. But one thing was certain: the haunting echoes of Inuniki Tunnel would stay with me, a chilling testament to the power of the unknown. If you ever find yourself drawn to the allure of haunted places and whispered tales, heed my story. The Inuniki Tunnel is more than just a physical location. It is a realm where the boundary between reality and legend blurs, where the past reaches out to touch the present, and where the curious may encounter more than they bargained for. It was a night like no other in the bustling city of Edo, now known as Tokyo. The year was 1825, a time when shadows danced more freely in the flickering light of lanterns, and whispers of spirits and curses drifted through the narrow, winding streets. This is the tale of Yotsuya Kaiden, the chilling story of Oiwa, a woman whose vengeance would echo through the ages. Oiwa was a beautiful young woman, married to a ronin named Aiman. Aiman was a man of questionable character, a samurai without a master, whose loyalty was as fleeting as the autumn leaves. Their marriage was not one of love, but of necessity and circumstance, driven by societal pressures and the harsh realities of life. Despite her hardships, Oiwa remained devoted to her husband, her heart pure and steadfast. However, Aiman harbored dark ambitions and a cruel heart. He grew weary of his life with Oiwa and coveted a woman named Alme, the granddaughter of a wealthy doctor named Kaihai. Driven by greed and lust, Aiman concocted a nefarious plan to rid himself of Oiwa. Oiwa, oblivious to her husband's betrayal, fell ill. Aiman, pretending to care for her, secretly gave her a potion provided by it Kihai. The potion was not a cure, but a deadly poison. Oiwa's health deteriorated rapidly. Her once radiant beauty was ravaged by the poison, disfiguring her face into a grotesque mask of suffering. Her eye drooped, her skin blistered, and her hair fell out in clumps. The pain was excruciating, both physically and emotionally, as she realized the man she loved had betrayed her. One fateful night, as she lay dying, Oiwa's spirit was consumed by a burning desire for vengeance. In her final moments, she swore a curse upon Aiman and all those who had wronged her. Her death was not the end, but the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt Aiman and his conspirators. Aiman, believing he was free to pursue Yum, married her without delay. On their wedding night, as Aiman lifted Omi's veil, he was horrified to see not his new bride, but the disfigured face of Oiwa staring back at him, her one good eye filled with unending rage. He screamed and struck out, only to find that he had killed me, her lifeless body now lying at his feet. Haunted by Oiwa's vengeful spirit, Aiman's life descended into madness. No matter where he went, Oiwa's ghost followed, her presence a constant reminder of his treachery. She appeared in reflections, in shadows, and in his dreams, her voice a haunting whisper that promised retribution. The ghost of Oiwa did not limit her vengeance to Aiman alone. Those who had aided in her suffering met gruesome fates. Kihai was found dead, his face twisted in terror, his home filled with the scent of decay. Yum's family suffered inexplicable tragedies, their fortunes crumbling as swiftly as Oiwa's beauty had. Driven to the brink of insanity, Aiman fled to the countryside, seeking solace in the remote village of Yotsuya. But even there, Oiwa's curse found him. On a stormy night, As thunder roared and lightning split the sky, Ayman saw Oiwa standing at the foot of his bed. Her ghostly form was illuminated by the storm's fierce light, her face a visage of torment and fury. She reached out, her fingers like icy claws, and in that moment, Ayman knew there was no escape. The villagers found Ayman's body the next morning, his face frozen in a mask of sheer horror, his heart stopped dead from fright. The legend of Oiwa's vengeance spread far and wide, a cautionary tale of betrayal and retribution that transcended generations. The story of Yotsuya Kaidan remains one of Japan's most enduring ghost stories, a chilling reminder that the spirits of the wronged do not rest easily. Oiwa's tale is a testament to the power of vengeance and the darkness that can lurk within the human heart. So, the next time you hear a whisper in the dark or see a shadow move where it shouldn't, remember the tale of Oiwa and tread carefully, for some spirits are never truly at peace. Thank you for listening to this haunting story. If it sent chills down your spine, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales of terror. And remember, not all ghosts are friendly. Some are fueled by a rage that can never be quenched. Until next time, stay safe and beware of the darkness.